All right, so you're here for the deep dive into something that everyone on TikTok is talking about, the Rizz face. It's it's been blowing up, and you want to know: is it just another silly trend, or is there something more to it? Well, let's unpack this.
It's fascinating how something as simple as a facial expression can become such a huge cultural phenomenon. But when you think about it, the Riz face is really tapping into something we're all hardwired for, reading and responding to nonverbal cues.
So it's more than just a TikTok trend. It's about how we communicate without even saying a word.
Exactly. And the Riz face is a great example of how we can consciously use those cues to kind of project a certain image or persona.
Okay, so let's break it down. What exactly is the Rizz face, and how do you actually do it?
Well, it's all about mastering this specific look that supposedly oozes confidence and charm. Think Mona Lisa meets James Bond, a little mysterious, a little seductive, but always in control. It's mostly about the eyes and the smile.
A subtle squint, a sly smile. Sounds a bit like you're trying to pull one over on someone. Is that the idea? To kind of disarm people with this look?
Not necessarily, no. It's not about being deceptive. It's more about projecting an air of self-assurance and maybe even a hint of playfulness.
Okay. But how does that translate into a specific expression? Is there like a formula for the perfect Riz face?
Not exactly a formula, but there are some key elements. The eyes, for example, are crucial. You want a slight squint, just enough to create that, I know something you don't vibe, but not so much that you look like you're struggling to see.
I'm picturing Ryan Gosling in Drive, that kind of cool, enigmatic look.
Exactly, you've got it.
Mhm.
And then there's the smile. Not a big, cheesy grin, but a subtle, knowing smile that suggests you're in on the joke.
So it's all about subtlety. But how do you find that sweet spot? Is there a danger of going overboard and ending up looking, well, a little creepy?
Definitely. You have to walk a fine line between alluring and alarming.
So how do you avoid that? Any tips for someone who's new to the whole Riz face game?
Absolutely. First and foremost, you want to relax. The expression should appear effortless, not forced.
So no furrowed brows or strained smiles. Got it. What else?
Practice. Spend some time in front of the mirror and experiment with different variations.
So it's not about copying someone else's expression perfectly. It's about finding your own unique style.
Exactly. It's like any form of nonverbal communication. It has to be authentic to you to be effective. Now, this raises an important question. Why is something as simple as a facial expression suddenly so captivating? Why are people drawn to the Riz face?
Well, it's not just the expression itself, right? It's the confidence behind it. It's about projecting a certain energy that makes people want to lean in and find out more.
Exactly. It taps into our primal instincts.
Mhm.
We're instinctively drawn to people who exude confidence and charisma. It suggests they have something valuable to offer, whether it's knowledge, social status, or even just good genes.
So in a way, the Riz face is a shortcut to signaling those qualities without actually having to prove anything. It's like a social hack.
It is, in a way,
Hmm.
but like any hack, it only works if it's done right. If it comes across as forced or inauthentic, it backfires.
So the key is to find that balance between mastering the technique and staying true to yourself.
Exactly. It's about finding your own unique Riz, the one that reflects your personality and makes you feel confident and empowered.
So it's less about copying a specific expression and more about tapping into your own inner charisma and letting it shine through.
Precisely. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of the Riz face, the deeper meaning behind it. It's not just about looking cool. It's about expressing yourself authentically.
So the Riz face is just the tip of the iceberg. It's a gateway into understanding the power of nonverbal communication and how we can use it to connect with others on a deeper level.
Exactly. And that's what we'll be exploring further in this deep dive.
I'm already hooked. This
Yeah.
is way more interesting than I thought it would be. I can't wait to see where we go next.
Me neither. We've
Oh.
only just scratched the surface of this fascinating topic.
Well, let's dive in. We've got the Riz face basics down, but I'm ready to explore the deeper implications of this trend and what it says about our culture and ourselves.
Great, because there's a lot more to unpack here.
Mm.
We've talked about how the Riz face conveys confidence, but it also plays into another powerful aspect of nonverbal communication, mirroring.
Mirroring, like looking in a mirror?
Not quite. Mirroring is a subconscious behavior where we subtly imitate the expressions and body language of people we're attracted to or want to build rapport with.
Oh, I've heard of that. It's like when you're talking to someone and you find yourself unconsciously copying their posture or hand gestures.
Exactly. And it's a powerful tool for building connection and trust. Now here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Think about how the Riz face is often used in reaction to someone else's video on TikTok.
Right. It's like a response to someone else's energy or vibe.
Exactly. And in doing so, it creates a subtle form of mirroring. The person using the Rizz face is essentially acknowledging and reflecting back the other person's confidence and charisma.
So it's not just about projecting your own Rizz, it's also about recognizing and validating the Rizz in others.
Precisely. And that act of mutual recognition creates a sense of connection and shared understanding.
Wow, I never thought about it that way. So the Rizz face is like a secret handshake for confident people.
You could say that. It's a way of signaling, hey, I see you, I get you, and I respect your game.
This is blowing my mind. It's amazing how much is going on beneath the surface of something as seemingly simple as a facial expression.
It is, isn't it? And that's the beauty of nonverbal communication. It's constantly at play, shaping our interactions in ways we often don't even realize.
Well, I'm definitely going to be paying more attention to my own nonverbal cues from now on. This deep dive has given me a whole new perspective on how we communicate.
That's fantastic to hear. And remember, it's not just about mastering a specific technique like the Rizz face. It's about becoming more aware of the subtle ways we communicate and using that knowledge to build stronger connections with others.
I'm ready to level up my communication game. But before we go any further, I'm curious to hear more about those practical tips for actually mastering the Rizz face. We touched on relaxation and practice, but is there anything else people should keep in mind?
You're right. Let's get into some more specifics. One thing that's often overlooked is the importance of eye contact.
Ah, the windows to the soul.
Exactly. Maintaining steady eye contact, even with that slight squint, is key to conveying confidence and engagement.
So you're not looking away or darting your eyes around, you're holding that gaze.
Precisely. It shows that you're present, interested, and not afraid to connect.
But how do you do that without feeling awkward or intense?
It's about finding a balance. You want to maintain eye contact, but not stare someone down.
Right. We're not trying to intimidate anyone. We're aiming for alluring, not alarming.
Exactly. Think of it as a gentle, steady gaze that conveys warmth and interest.
Okay. So we've got relaxed demeanor, steady eye contact, and that subtle smile. Anything else?
Body language is also important. Even though the Rizz face is all about the face, the rest of your body should be congruent with the message you're trying to convey.
So you wouldn't want to be slouching or fidgeting while trying to pull off this confident look.
Exactly. You want to maintain an open and relaxed posture with your shoulders back and your head held high.
So it's about projecting an air of confidence and ease with your entire body.
Precisely. Remember, nonverbal communication is a whole body experience. Every gesture, every movement contributes to the overall message you're sending.
This is making me think about all the times I've probably sent the wrong message without even realizing it. Like maybe I was slouching in a meeting and came across as disinterested, even though I was actually totally engaged.
It happens to all of us. We're often unaware of the subtle cues we're sending out. But the good news is that once you become aware of them, you can start to control them and use them to your advantage.
So becoming more aware of our nonverbal communication can not only help us master the Rizz face, but it can also improve our interactions in all areas of life.
Absolutely. It's a valuable skill that can benefit you in your personal relationships, your professional life, and even your social interactions.
Wow, this deep dive has been eye-opening. I'm starting to see the Rizz face as more than just a silly TikTok trend. It's a gateway to understanding the power of nonverbal communication and how we can use it to connect with others on a deeper level.
I'm glad you're finding it insightful. And we're just getting started. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore how the Rizz face reflects broader cultural trends and what it says about our evolving understanding of confidence, charisma, and authenticity in the digital age.
I can't wait. This is getting really interesting.
Me too. We'll delve into some fascinating research on the psychology of attraction and how the Rizz face taps into our primal desires for connection and validation.
This is going to be good. I'm ready to dive deeper.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've been breaking down the Rizz face and how it works, but I'm curious to hear more about how this trend reflects what's happening in our culture right now.
Well, what's interesting is that the Rizz face emerged on TikTok, a platform known for its playful self-expression and its embrace of individuality.
So it's not surprising that a trend focused on nonverbal communication and personal charisma would take off there.
Exactly. TikTok encourages users to be themselves, to experiment, and to put their personalities out there. And the Rizz face fits perfectly into that ethos.
It's like a celebration of confidence and self-awareness.
Precisely. And it also speaks to our increasing comfort with communicating through nonverbal cues, especially in the digital age.
It makes sense. We're constantly using emojis, GIFs, and memes to express ourselves online, and the Rizz face is like an extension of that.
It is. It's a way of using our facial expressions to convey emotions and intentions in a way that transcends language.
So even though it's a trend that started on TikTok, it reflects a broader shift in how we communicate in the digital world.
Absolutely. And it's also interesting to consider the role of humor in all of this. The Rizz face often used in a playful and ironic way.
Right. It's not meant to be taken too seriously.
Exactly. It's a way of poking fun at traditional notions of attractiveness and flirting.
It's like saying, hey, I'm confident enough to laugh at myself.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that self-deprecating humor is a big part of what makes the Rizz face so appealing.
It's disarming and relatable.
Exactly. It makes the person using it seem more approachable and less intimidating.
So it's not just about projecting confidence, it's also about showing vulnerability.
That's a great point. Vulnerability is an essential ingredient in genuine connection. And the Rizz face, with its blend of confidence and self-deprecation, strikes that balance perfectly.
This reminds me of something we discussed earlier about how the Rizz face can be used to mirror and validate the confidence in others. It's not just about putting yourself out there, it's also about recognizing and appreciating the Rizz in other people.
That's a really insightful observation. And it speaks to the collaborative nature of TikTok as a platform.
Right. It's all about building each other up and celebrating each other's strengths.
Exactly. And the Rizz face becomes a tool for doing just that.
It's like a nonverbal way of saying, I see you, I respect you, and I think you're awesome.
I love that. It captures the essence of the Rizz face perfectly.
This is making me think about how our understanding of confidence and charisma has evolved over time. In the past, confidence was often associated with being stoic and unemotional.
It was all about projecting an image of strength and control.
But now it seems like we're embracing a more nuanced view of confidence, one that allows for vulnerability, humor, and self-awareness.
Exactly. And the Rizz face embodies that shift.
It's about being comfortable in your own skin, quirks and all.
Precisely. And that authenticity is what makes the Rizz face so compelling.
It's not about trying to be someone you're not. It's about embracing your unique personality and letting it shine through.
And that's a powerful message, especially for young people who are still figuring out who they are.
This whole deep dive has really shifted my perspective on nonverbal communication. I used to think it was all about reading body language and trying to decipher hidden meanings.
It can be about that, but it's also about consciously using our nonverbal cues to express ourselves and connect with others.
And the Rizz face is a great example of how we can do that in a fun and creative way.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that nonverbal communication can be playful and empowering.
So even though the Rizz face started as a TikTok trend, it's actually teaching us some valuable lessons about human connection.
Exactly. It's showing us that confidence can be playful, that vulnerability can be attractive, and that authenticity is always the best policy.
This is giving me a whole new appreciation for the power of a well-timed smile or a knowing glance.
Me too. It's amazing how much we can communicate without saying a word.
Okay, so we've explored the cultural significance of the Rizz face and how it reflects our evolving understanding of confidence, but I'm wondering if there are any potential downsides to this trend. Are there any risks associated with relying too heavily on nonverbal cues?
That's a great question. And it's important to acknowledge that nonverbal communication can be easily misinterpreted.
So what might seem like a confident Rizz face to one person could be perceived as arrogant or even creepy to another.
Exactly. It's crucial to be mindful of the context in the audience.
And to remember that nonverbal cues are just one piece of the communication puzzle.
Right. We also need to pay attention to words, tone of voice, and the overall situation.
So it's about finding a balance between nonverbal and verbal communication.
Precisely. And being aware of the potential pitfalls of relying too heavily on nonverbal cues.
This is making me think about how the Rizz face might be perceived differently across cultures.
That's an excellent point.
Right.
What might be considered flirtatious or playful in one culture could be seen as disrespectful or inappropriate in another.
So it's important to be sensitive to cultural differences when it comes to nonverbal communication.
Absolutely. What works in one context might not translate well in another.
This is making me realize that nonverbal communication is a lot more complex than I initially thought.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's something we're constantly learning about and adapting to.
But even with its complexities, it's clear that nonverbal communication plays a vital role in our interactions.
Absolutely. It shapes how we perceive others and how they perceive us.
So it's worth taking the time to understand it better.
Definitely. And the Rizz face is a great starting point for exploring this fascinating realm of human communication.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've broken down the mechanics of the Rizz face, explored its cultural significance, and even touched on some of the potential risks and complexities of nonverbal communication.
And hopefully, we've inspired our listener to be more mindful of their own nonverbal cues and how they're coming across to others.
I know I've learned a ton. I'm already starting to pay more attention to my own facial expressions and body language.
That's fantastic. Remember, awareness is the first step towards mastery.
So what's the key takeaway for our listener as we wrap up this deep dive into the Rizz face?
I think the most important takeaway is that nonverbal communication is a powerful tool that can be used to connect with others, build relationships, and express ourselves authentically.
But it's also important to be aware of the potential pitfalls of relying too heavily on nonverbal cues, and to remember that communication is a two-way street.
Exactly. It's about finding a balance between nonverbal and verbal communication, being mindful of the context, and always striving to be authentic.
I love that. So, as we move into the final part of our deep dive, I'm curious to explore some practical tips for harnessing the power of nonverbal communication in our everyday lives.
Great. Because understanding the theory is one thing, but putting it into practice is where the real magic happens.
Let's do it. I'm ready to level up my communication game. All right, so we've explored the Rizz face from all angles, the mechanics, the cultural impact, the potential pitfalls. But now I'm ready for the practical stuff. How can we actually use this knowledge to improve our communication skills in real life?
That's the million-dollar question. And the good news is that becoming more aware of your nonverbal communication is a skill you can develop, just like learning a new language or playing an instrument.
So where do we start?
One of the most effective techniques is something we touched on earlier, mirroring. Remember how we talked about how the Rizz face often mirrors the confidence of the person it's reacting to?
Right. It's like a nonverbal way of saying, I see you, I get you.
Exactly. And you can use this technique in everyday conversations to build rapport and create a sense of connection. Pay attention to the other person's posture, their gestures, their facial expressions, and subtly mirror those cues.
So if someone is leaning forward and engaging in the conversation, I should mirror that by leaning in as well.
Precisely. It shows that you're present, interested, and on the same wavelength.
But wouldn't that seem a little, well, creepy if it's too obvious?
Definitely. The key is to be subtle and natural. Don't mimic every single movement. That would be weird. Just mirror a few key cues to create a sense of harmony and synchronicity.
Okay, so mirroring is one technique. What else can we do to boost our nonverbal game?
Another powerful tool is eye contact. We mentioned this in the context of the Rizz face, but maintaining steady, engaging eye contact is crucial in any conversation.
It shows confidence and respect.
Exactly. But it's also about more than just holding someone's gaze. It's about conveying warmth, interest, and understanding through your eyes.
So how do you do that?
Yeah.
Is there a secret formula for the perfect eye contact?
Not a formula, but there are a few things to keep in mind. First, focus on the other person's eyes, but don't stare them down.
Right. We want to be engaging, not intimidating.
Exactly. Think of it as a gentle, steady gaze that conveys warmth and connection.
Okay, I can see how that would make someone feel more at ease.
And don't forget to blink. Blinking is natural. It actually helps to convey authenticity and approachability.
Right. We don't want to look like robots.
Exactly. Now, here's another tip for making your eye contact more effective. Try to notice the color of the other person's eyes.
Really? Why does that matter?
It's a subtle way to show that you're truly present and paying attention. When you focus on the details, it signals that you're genuinely interested in the person you're talking to.
That's fascinating. I'm definitely going to try that.
I think you'll be surprised by the difference it makes.
So we've got mirroring, eye contact. Any other tips for mastering nonverbal communication?
One more that's particularly relevant to the Rizz face is mastering the art of the subtle smile.
Ah, yes, the Mona Lisa smile. We talked about that.
Exactly. But even beyond the Rizz face, a genuine subtle smile can work wonders in any social interaction.
It makes you seem more approachable and likable.
Precisely. And it can even elevate your mood and reduce stress. There's actually been a lot of research on the power of smiling, even when you don't feel like it.
So faking it till you make it actually works.
To some extent, yes. When you force yourself to smile, even if it's not genuine at first, it can actually trigger a cascade of positive emotions in your brain.
Wow, I never realized that. So even if I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed, putting on a smile can actually help me feel better.
Exactly. It's a simple but powerful technique for shifting your mindset and improving your interactions.
Okay, this is all great stuff, but I have to ask, what about those of us who are just naturally shy or introverted? Is it is it possible for us to master these nonverbal techniques?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, becoming more aware of nonverbal communication can be particularly empowering for introverts.
Birds?
It gives you more control over how you present yourself and how you connect with others.
That makes sense. If you're not as comfortable expressing yourself verbally, nonverbal cues can be a valuable tool for getting your message across.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about becoming someone you're not. It's about using nonverbal communication to enhance your authentic self.
So even if I'm not naturally outgoing or charismatic, I can still use these techniques to make myself more approachable and build stronger connections.
Absolutely. It's all about practice, awareness, and finding what works best for you.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding of nonverbal communication and how it shapes our interactions.
Me too. And I hope our listeners feel the same way.
So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from this deep dive into the Rizz face and the power of nonverbal communication?
The most important thing is to remember that communication is a continuous, dynamic process. It's not just about the words we say, but also about the subtle cues we send through our expressions, our gestures, our posture, and our tone of voice.
And by becoming more aware of those cues, we can become more effective communicators, build stronger connections, and express ourselves more authentically.
Exactly. So keep practicing your Rizz face, pay attention to your nonverbal cues, and embrace the power of communication in all its forms.
That's a great note to end on. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep exploring the fascinating world of human connection.